All right, guys, so we've got one more of these instruction videos until we take a break from the grammar instruction. We're going to practice a little bit next week. But first, want to shout out our champs, our ladies soccer team. You are inspiring. Our men's soccer team, you are also amazing. Very proud to have been able to watch you guys not only play and compete very well, but win. All right, so I'd like you to read the following sentence. We talked about pronoun matching last week. I want you to, and we talked about other problems that pronouns have. I want you to try to identify the problem that we see with the pronoun them in this sentence. Okay, so the problem with them is that it seems to refer to slavery in Jim Crow laws, but clearly that is not what benefited the black community. And yet it's most natural to link that them up to those two nouns. What them actually refers to are the reparations or the means of paying back the African American community that are mentioned earlier in the sentence. But it's not exactly clear what them refers to, and that's a problem. That's using pronouns incorrectly. So the pronoun use is ambiguous. It's not clear what it refers to. And it really hurts this student's otherwise beautiful, sophisticated writing to have this question mark at the end of the sentence. And it's those sort of question marks that we want to avoid leaving our readers with. And that's what we're looking to eliminate today, that type of confusion. So today's lesson is focusing on making sure that our subjects and verbs match. I want to give you another sentence. While everyone immigrating have a similar goal to have a better life here in the U.S. than where they were living, most people had to come here for many different reasons. We have a subject and verb matching error in this sentence. Can you find what it is? So have doesn't match its subject, which is everyone. And though everyone might sound plural, everyone, as the word suggests, is talking about every single person. So we're talking in a singular way. And so the verb needs to match that, which would be has. Let's look at another one. The story of Mexicans and Vietnamese are not the same, but they moved to the U.S. for a better lifestyle. Nothing wrong with sentence number one. The differences is how they end up getting to Houston and the different opportunities they have in this country when they get here. What's the problem with sentence two? The problem with sentence two is that verb is doesn't match the subject differences, which is plural. So it needs to be differences are. So again, this lesson is focused on helping students make sure they know what it takes to have their subjects and verbs match. Matchiness is a part of life. We need our pronoun to match the thing the pronoun is taking the place of, and we need subjects to match our verbs. In the Spanish language, matchiness is even more important than it is in English. All right, so bear with me as I try to read this following sentence. Las papas fritas son servidos con una coca. So check out the matchiness in this sentence. The article las has to match papas. And the adjective fritas has to match the noun papas. And the verb son has to match the noun papas. So in Spanish, you've got all this intricate matching going on. I've mentioned before that Greek and German are also very concerned with matchiness, more so than English. Why does matchiness exist in all these languages? Because it helps us know what words belong with what, and that in turn enhances clarity, the clarity of the sentence. So it's not to keep English teachers, to make sure English teachers have a job. It's just a part of language, regardless of what language you're going to be speaking or writing in. And again, I want to point out, Spanish is more concerned with this matchiness thing than English is. And definitely Spanish's ways of matching words are way more sophisticated than in English. English matching is simpler. Okay, so let's look at the following sentence. What is the verb that we want to choose to go with the corresponding subject? So the correct answer is are, because puppies is plural, and we need to choose the plural verb, the plural state of being verb, which is are. This is how plurals are formed in English. Are is used for plural subjects, and is used for singular ones. Was is the past tense state of being verb that we're going to use often, and were is the plural past tense state of being verb. So these are, again, states of being: is, are, was, were. They're verbs. They're not action verbs. They're state of being verbs. And are is plural, were is plural, is a singular, was a singular. All right. This is also how plurals are formed in English, with action verbs. Cognitive stimulation lead, or leads to healthy attention spans later in life. So we add an S to the end of singular verbs, but no S to plural ones. Now that sounds super confusing, because you would think that you add an S to make it plural. I am sorry this is confusing, but English grammar is sometimes very confusing, as we saw with apostrophes. Cognitive stimulation is singular, and the right choice is leads. So cognitive stimulation is singular. That means if we want the verb to be singular, we add an S. If we want the verb to be plural, we do not add an S. The easiest way to remember this is to write your own sentence. So it's not the boys plays soccer, it's the boys play soccer. It's not the girl play soccer, it's the girl plays soccer. So in English, when you want to make the verb plural, the verb is going to not have an S. When you want to make it singular, it will have an S. Those, what we just went over, are basically the rules to subject-verb matching, the basic rules, subject-verb matching 101. Now we're going to move on to more common, sort of complex errors that appear on the ACT, and that you'll see appear also in y'all's writing. So we're going to talk first about there being a modifier in the subject and how that sometimes creates matching problems. So what is the right answer? Is it includes or is it include? So we find our verb. Our verb is pretty obvious because we have those two verb options. And we find the subject of the verb, the sale that starts in a few days. Now, because this is a crazy long subject, it creates matching problems for us. Do we match the verb include to days, or do we match it to something else in the subject? And the answer is you have to find what's called the head of the subject. The head of the subject is the thing that is being modified or described by another part of the subject. So English grammar books will also refer to this as the complete subject versus the simple subject. But I'm going to use the word head. And when we're trying to find the subject, and when we're trying to make subject-verb matches, we need to make sure that we're locating the head of the subject, the thing that's kind of the boss of the subject, versus the part that is simply describing the head of the subject. So here in this sentence, it's very clear that that starts in a few days is describing the sale. It's not the thing that is described, right? The thing that is described, or the head, is the sale. So we have multiple subject-verb pairs here, but the subject of includes is the sale that starts in a few days, and the head of that subject is sale. So that means our answer choice needs to be includes because sale is singular, so the verb has to match. And that means it's includes. All right, so let's look at the following sentence. There are 2 subject-verb matching errors in this sentence. Can you find them? I'm going to break this sentence down for us so that it's a little easier to see what's going on. 2 political and economic situations. That, what is that doing in the sentence? That equals 2 political and economic situations. And these 2 political and economic situations motivates Hispanics, Asians, or Africans to cross the border to the United States of America. And the last part of the sentence reads, is usually poverty and violence in their country, which they're trying to escape. So we've got a very, very complicated series of ideas. I'm very proud of the student for writing these ideas, but we have some matching errors. And maybe you were already able to find them. We have a subject here, and that equals the 2 ideas before. The 2 ideas before are plural, which means we need a verb that is going to match that and what that equals. So that means it's going to be motivate, because 2 political and economic situations equals that, and that then needs to be motivate. Then we have the verb is, and what is usually poverty and violence in their country? It's the 2 political and economic situations that motivate Hispanics, Asians, or Africans. That's what is, but that needs to be changed because our subject is plural to are. This is a very complicated sentence. They will get easier from here, but I wanted to just show you how we might make those error adjustments. And some of you were able to pick that up without that level of analysis. That's fine. I'm just explaining why it is the case that we change the verbs to make sure they're plural there. All right. So what I want you to do with these next couple sentences, I want you to find the verb. Verb's fairly easy to find. Then I want you to find the subject and locate whether there's a modifier phrase, a part in the subject that's describing the thing that we might call the head of the subject, or the kind of boss of the subject. So check it out. In the following one, is or are, that's our verb. We've got our big subject. We've got this modifier phrase for emotional intelligence software is describing what? It's describing the applications. And now to make the subject match the verb, we're not going to match it with emotional intelligence software because that's the modifier. We're going to match it with the head of the subject. So applications is plural, which means our verb needs to be plural, and that means it's going to be are. All right, let's do another one. So we've got this verb demonstrates. Can you find what the subject of the verb demonstrates is? So we've got this big long modifier phrase that's modifying the photographs. Photographs is plural, which means the verb needs to match. And in English, that means do not use an S. Okay. Next one. Make any changes you need to make to any verb that you find in this sentence. We got this modifier. The meaning of this, the Kerberos is the subject. So that needs to be changed so that it's singular, and that means use an S. Oh, this is the next type of error. In English, like other languages, we have collective but singular nouns, but it's easy to mistakenly link these to plural verbs. So in Wild Tales, the wedding couple demonstrate animal-like behavior. Wedding couple does refer to more than one person. However, we're talking about one couple, so it's actually going to be demonstrates. We're not talking about 2 couples. What about here? The Board of Trustees is or are meeting today for the first time. we're not talking about the trustees, we're talking about the board of trustees. And there's one board, we're not talking about two, so the answer would be is. Just think, the United States of America is made up of many things, many states, but we refer to it as only one country. Well, error number 3. Normally subjects come before verbs, but when sentences begin with words like here or there, the subject comes after the verb. You gotta pay attention to that. Subject normally come first in English, correct? But here, what's the subject? The subject is cat, and it comes after the verb is. Subject is shoes, comes after the verb are. Normally it comes before, but when we have here or there, it comes after. Now check out the student error. There's also no breaks on the weekends. Nah, there are also no breaks. So we have that inverted subject-verb order, kind of messes us up there. All right, lastly, we get a little messed up with words like or and nor. So it's either chicken or beef is for dinner. We're not talking about both of them are for dinner. It's one or the other. So we want the singular subject is. But if we say chicken and beef, we're talking about both of them. We want the verb to be plural. All right, and then we kind of get tripped up with these words like each and all, many or most. So each item of clothing you purchase is taxed. We're talking about each single item. So we want the verb to be singular. And then many refers, exact opposite, it's referring to many people or many things. It's plural. All right, so I want you to identify any subject-verb matching errors in the sentences below, and then correct them.